Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly want to associate myself with the line of questioning of Senator Lee. I think he's right on point. We got to look at the world we live in when we make these decisions about numbers and capabilities. General Kaler, am I pronouncing your name right? Close enough? Okay.
Yeah, you and I are right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've been batting about 500 on the committee today.
Well, I'm a colonel. I don't want to get court-martialed. So, are we spending enough money to modernize our nuclear weapons force?
I think we are coming out of a period where the answer was no. I think
How does sequestration affect?
It affects it. I can tell you it affects it in the near term in terms of the potential impact on readiness, as I mentioned earlier, which will come about over a period of months. That was, I described this earlier as a slow motion impact in STRATCOM because the services are trying to protect.
Well, part of the START treaty negotiations was those who voted for the treaty, I did not, there was a promise given we'd modernize our nuclear force.
And part two of sequestration, of course, is the overall budget totals, which are coming down, which
well, so basically, my view is we never honored the modernization commitment in terms of funding, and along comes sequestration, so you've been hit twice. We never gave the money, we never made the commitment that was promised in terms of modernization funds, even though it was more than in the past. And now you have sequestration. It's sort of a double whammy. Would you agree?
Well, I don't know yet, sir, what the sequestration investment impact is going to be on us. I don't know. The budget details have yet to be worked.
Well, it's across the board. Your account will be hit, right?
Certainly if the rules stay the way they are across the board.
Well, let's just assume that. Get back to me or the committee in writing, assuming an across-the-board continuation over a 10-year period, what it would do to our nuclear modernization efforts. Could you do that?
Yes, I can.
General Alexander, why isn't an attack on critical infrastructure in this nation, a cyber attack by a government like China or Russia, why is that not considered an act of war?
That's a great question, and I think one that needs to be ironed out. What constitutes an act of war in cyberspace? So let me give you my thoughts on that.
Please.
Versus trying to bat this around.
There is no clear answer. I agree with you.
Right. I think first I would look at the laws of armed conflict, the intent of the nation and what they're doing. I would say what we're seeing today from those countries, essentially espionage and theft of intellectual property, is not an act of war.
What about military modernization plans? Stealing,
espionage.
Yeah, a lot of their fighters tend to look like our fighters.
That's right, and a lot across the board. So I think that's espionage. I think that's theft of intellectual property. I would say that the intent is to steal secrets, and you're into the espionage criminal. If the intent is to disrupt or destroy our infrastructure, I think you've crossed the line. So somewhere in that zone.
Have you seen an intent, a planning process in place where enemies of the nation would attack us through cyberspace? Is that something we should be worried about?
Yes, that's something we should be worried about, and I can give you more details in a closed setting.
All right. Now, let's talk about outside Department of Defense. You can defend the defense infrastructures, but you're so connected to the private sector, one cannot be disconnected from the other. Is that correct?
That's correct.
We don't have a little bubble that you can protect. If systems go down, if power systems go down, it affects you. If financial services are disrupted, it would affect you. You can just go on and on with how an attack on critical infrastructure could affect our national security. Have you talked to Senator Whitehouse about his proposed solution of dealing with critical infrastructure?
I have not the latest one. I have talked to Senator Whitehouse in the past and found that he and I are essentially in sync on those discussions, but I haven't seen his latest.
I'm with him, and the concept is that we would identify critical infrastructure in the private sector like power supply, financial services, things that every American depends on, and if they went down would hurt us as a nation, hurt our economy, and could do harm to our citizens. I think his concept is that let's identify critical infrastructure and allow the industries in question, like the utilities, to come up with the best business practices within their industry and submit their proposal to a collaborative body of government agencies, with Homeland Security certainly a key component of it. And if these best business practices are in the minds of the government meaningful, we would grant liability protection to those who met those standards. It'd be voluntary. Does that sound like a reasonable way to proceed?
Senator, I think in part that's reasonable. The issue that it leaves not addressed is the information sharing part.
Right, that has to be done. That's a critical part of it. Let's assume that we get the information sharing right. We've got two ways to do this. Through a regulatory regime, my belief is that regulations would be expensive and the threats move too fast for it to work. Do you agree with that?
I do. In fact, I would say, so if you separate the two and you have
Right.
liability and information sharing on one side, and then you have liability and standards and regulation on the other side that work together, in essence, that's essentially where the executive order is trying to go as well.
Right. So I would just want to encourage you, we'll meet with Senator Whitehouse and others and see if we can find a pathway forward that would allow the private sector to set the standards in the critical infrastructure area, and the payoff would be liability protection, because this is an ever-changing threat. Finally, what kind of damage could be done to our country through a cyber attack? Start with nation states, then criminal organizations. What kind of threat are we facing? And finally, in South Carolina, our database at the Department of Revenue was hacked into, and every citizen's Social Security number and a lot of business information was stolen, causing the state of South Carolina a lot of chaos in trying to provide identity theft protection to our citizens. This was a massive intrusion into a state system where over 3 million Social Security numbers were seized. Can you just quickly tell the committee the kind of threats we face, and if Congress doesn't get involved, I think we will regret the day.
So generally speaking, all our systems today, our power systems, our water systems, our governments, our industry depend on computers, depend on computerized switches, depend on these networks, all that are at risk. If an adversary were to get in, they could essentially destroy those components, make those so that you either had to replace them or get somebody to come in and replace each part of that. In the power grid, as an example,
It could do as much or more damage than the attacks of 9/11.
that's correct. I think it would. If you look at what happened in 2003 in the Northeast power disruption, that was caused by a software failure. That was not somebody attacking us. That was a software failure. But now think about somebody imposing a software failure, not just in the Northeast, but across all of those and cascading that across the United States, and breaking some of the transformers, which would be very difficult to replace. We would have significant power outages for extended periods throughout the country. Think about Wall Street if we were to go in, and I know Senator Blumenthal was asking questions on this earlier about what happens if you attack Wall Street and you destroy the data that they need to, at the end of the day, ensure all the books are right. If you can't close those books, which are done today by computers, you have a significant problem in our banking infrastructure, not just ours, but global.
Since our time is up, if you could maybe just submit to the committee sort of a worst-case scenario from a cyber attack, kind of a 9/11 scenario. And finally, the executive order, I think, is a result of Congress's inaction, and I don't blame the president at all. Do you believe it would be prudent for the Congress to enhance the executive order, that we need legislation in this area beyond the executive order to make the nation safe?
I do.
Thank you.